Hello, and welcome to Art with Miss Michelle. Today we're going to make an adorable gnome craft. So this is what it's going to look like when it's done. So gnomes are really kind of a fun thing. They've had legends and kind of word of mouth stories about them throughout different cultures in the past. And they're traditionally known to live underground, and they can be friendly or mischievous towards humans, but they're protective of the earth, and they kind of guard the earth's treasures from humans. There's lots of different stories about them, and one legend is that if the sunlight hits them, they'll turn to stone, which is how garden gnomes kind of got started. But one thing gnomes are known for is their red pointy hat and their long beard. This one's extremely long. I might cut it a little bit. I haven't decided yet. But gnomes are generally playful, kind of cute, small little creature. So for our gnomes, to make a little gnome like this, you're gonna need your template that is going to show you how to cut out the different shapes for their clothing, hat, and the cone, which is what's kind of holding this together, and some yarn for the beard, and then 2 pieces of felt. And this is going to be for your cone, this is just a piece of cardstock, and you're not going to see it, so it doesn't matter what color it is. And then you'll need a nose, and you can decide if you want googly eyes or not. I think they look kind of cute without eyes, like their hat's covering it, but if you want to add some eyes, you can. And then you're going to need just one little piece of tape, some scissors, and some tacky glue. And I have a little stick to spread my glue. Okay, so I am going to begin by cutting out my template. So I'm just going to cut on the lines very carefully. I want to make sure I have the exact size of these, otherwise it won't stick together very well. Okay, so I'm going to start with my cone. So I'm going to use my cardstock, and I just want to cut this shape out. So I can either hold, if I can be sure to hold it really still, I can hold it on here. And if I line up one edge with my flat edge, then I only have to cut 2 edges out. If you don't think you'll be able to hold it flat like this, I would trace it on here with a pencil and cut it out, but you want to make sure you get this exact shape. Now, I'm going to roll this up. And I don't want to fold it, but I can, if I bend it just on the top here a little bit, then it might be a little bit easier to roll up and hold in place. And this is going to make the shape for my gnome body and hat. So it might not line up perfectly. You can see this overlaps a little bit, but like I said, you won't see this at all. So as long as you have a general cone shape, you should be okay. Now I'm going to take a little bit of my glue here, and I'm just going to use this stick to help me spread it. So I just want to get a little bit on here, and you might have noticed I wiped the extra on the edge of this so it won't drip. But I'm just going to put a really thin line on the edge of my cardstock. And then I can cover it with the other edge. Now this glue is really good glue, but it doesn't dry right away. So if I just take a little piece of tape and put it over that, it's going to help hold it in place for me, so I don't have to sit here and hold it the whole time. So I'm just going to set this aside to dry while I cut out the rest of my shapes. So you should have 2 pieces of felt, and they are going to be big enough that you could use either color for the clothes or the hat. Traditionally, gnomes are known for their red hats, but of course, if you want to make the clothes red and the hat a different color, that's fine too. I'm gonna go with my traditional color here. So, like I said, you might want to trace on here with a pencil. I think I can hold it on here without moving it, but probably the safest way would be to trace it with a pencil. And I'm just gonna cut right around the edges of here. And if I make it a tiny bit bigger, that's okay. I don't want it any smaller than this. But I want to get it as close to the exact size as I can. And then my scraps, I'm going to save. I can use these if I want to make some decorations on their hat or clothes later. And then I'm going to cut out my hat. So I'm going to do the same thing as last time and just put one of the flat edges along the flat edge of my felt. And then I'll cut my hat out. Okay, so now I have my cone and my clothes and my hat. So I'm gonna start assembling my gnome. So I'm gonna take some glue and spread it on the back of my felt. And I wanna use enough so it will stick, but if I use too much, it can actually soak through the felt. So as long as I get it on the edges, it should stick pretty well. And then I'm just gonna kind of line up the bottom with the bottom of my cone here and roll it around so the bottom stays lined up with the bottom of my cardstock. And then I can stick that on there, and that's gonna make my gnome's little outfit. And then before I do the hat, I'm going to use my yarn here to make the beard. So I should have 5 pieces that are about equal, and they're probably going to be too long. So if I have one piece that's shorter, I'm going to start with this, and I'm going to use my other pieces, and I'm going to loop them around this piece. So this is going to hold everything together, and then these other 4 pieces are going to make up my beard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this in half so the edges are even, and I have a loop on one side. And then I'm going to put that underneath my piece that's going to hold them together, and I am going to loop these 2 edges, or these 2 ends, through this loop. And I want to get it as close to the middle of this other piece of yarn as I can. And then I'm just going to do the same thing with my other pieces. And I want to make sure I go the same way every time. So I'm going to put my loop on this side, and I'm going to put these 2 pieces through, and then I can kind of hold the edges when I pull it. And then if I need to scooch it over a little bit, I can, and that is going to make a really nice long gnome beard. So I'm just going to do the same thing with my last 2 pieces. And if they're not all exactly the same length, that's fine. I can give them a little trim later. So I should have a nice long beard, and if I want to kind of slide these closer together, I can. And then I'm going to turn it over. It doesn't really matter which side you use. I'm going to use this side, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a really loose knot. You could tie this around here, but if you make a loose knot with these 2 ends and leave a little bit of a circle in the middle, it's going to give you a really good spot to put on your nose. I'm going to do left over right, and then under. And then I'm going to use the other side. I'm going to go right over left and then under. And I'm going to pull it not too tight, but that is what's called a square knot. And then I have my nice little space in the middle for the nose. So now I'm going to glue this on, and I want the top to be over the red part, and I want the bottom to be over the felt of his clothes. And then I'm going to take some of my glue and stick this on. And then if I want to, I can either cut these ends, or I might just tie them back there so they're out of the way and give me a little bit of extra support. Okay, so now I can add my nose. So I'm just going to take some glue, and if I spread it kind of on the sides and a little bit on the back, then it'll help stick to both the yarn and the cone. And I'm just going to stick that right in the middle of my circle there. So I have my gnomes looking pretty good. So now I'm going to be ready to add the hat. So the way this hat goes, it actually, the seam is going to be in the front. So I'm going to have it go right on top of the nose, so it looks like my eyes are covered up. If you want, you can always just stick your eyes on so it looks like they're peeking out of the hat. I kind of like them without eyes though. But what I'm going to do is spread some glue on here, and I'm going to go around the edges again. And I can put a little bit in the middle, but as long as I get it on the edges, it should stick pretty well. And then I'm going to put one side on first, so I can make sure it's lined up where I want it. Then I'll stick the other side over. And then this top part, it might take you a little bit to kind of piece it together. And then if you want to, I might need a little bit more glue on here. If you want to, you can use a little piece of tape to hold it together like we did with the body, and then you can just take it off once the glue is dry, but then you won't have to hold it. Usually if you pinch it together, it'll stick pretty well, but this one's not really sticking, so I'm going to try to put my glue on one last time. And then I'll just use a little piece of tape to assist me. And then once that dries, I can just take that tape off. So I'm just going to keep it on there temporarily. You won't have that on at the end. So now I have my cute little gnome. And then if I want to trim the beard, I can just I like to kind of keep the middle a little bit longer, and then the sides get kind of shorter as they go up. And then if you want to use your extra pieces to make some little decorations for the hat, I think the template even includes, if you want to do some holly leaves, you could do any kind of decoration. If you want to do polka dots, or I might do a little star here. I saw one with like a little swirl going around the hat, so I would probably keep it kind of simple, but you can be creative with your decorations. And if you have anything else at home that you might want to add, you can always expand on this project a little bit. You don't have to do it exactly like mine. Alright, so I have my cute little gnome here, and then when that dries I can take the tape off and put it somewhere for decoration. So thanks for watching my video, and happy gnome making.